All right, so Valentine's Day is approaching. I will be going to some murder mystery dinner show. It should be delightful. And I thought I've now read enough contemporary romance that I just wanted to talk about a bunch that I really like. Now, that said, there's going to be some very popular books and authors on this list because as exploring it, that's just what ended up happening. I'd get curious. My best friends would be reading certain books. I'd pick them up. So at the end of the video, I'll talk a lot about like Abby Jimenez and Allie Hazelwood because I've read a lot of their books. But at the start, I wanted to go through like 7 books that are kind of all over the place in terms of campiness or heaviness, and some are dual POV and which tropes they have. And I generally liked all of these. I DNF contemporary romances if I'm not liking them because I don't have time for that. Like I truly don't. If I'm reading a contemporary romance, it's because I want to have fun and be immersed. And if we are not doing that within the first 30 to 50 pages, it's not happening. So yeah, let's get into it, starting with and it's not really in any particular order, but it's kind of sort of my least favorite to favorite, The Worst Best Man. So this is a very fun Afro-Latina story with a Brazilian family. So if you're looking for something a little more diverse for your TBR, I think this one's fun. If you like wedding planning, this one also has that element. It is dual POV. And I had a really fun time with it. It has like a silly rom-com sort of thing where she was left by at the altar by this guy who ends up being the brother of the love interest of this story. And they have to work together because they have this job interview, and it relies on them working together to put together this package. And they both want to succeed. They're not really trying to pull one over on each other, but they do have that negative energy coming into this working relationship. But they also kind of have chemistry. And so it's the whole like the fine line between love and hate sort of idea here. And I generally liked it. I think I wanted it to be slightly tighter for my taste. But I love that it's dual POV. I love a dual POV story. I truly do. I think the family dynamics were fun. I think there are a lot of fun little convenient locations you get to go to, as is the way with contemporary romance, where it's just like, okay, we need to find a contrived way to get them alone so that they can explore the tension, and I always enjoy that. So this was really fun. I'm glad I finally read it recently. This next one I picked up because I was looking for a friends to lovers romance, and it sort of works for that, but not quite. But this is Practice Makes Perfect. So this is less friends to lovers to me, but it is one of those like training someone to be prepared for dating type stories. We get that trope a lot. This is a second in a series. I've read nothing else in the series. I didn't need to, and I haven't really felt the urge to go to other ones in this world. But our main character runs a flower shop, and like everyone kind of doesn't really see who she is. And there's this guy that she did grow up with who's there as like a bodyguard for someone in the first book of the series. And for some reason, I can't quite remember why, but he basically signs up to train her to help her be able to date. And then, of course, they have chemistry. And then, of course, it goes from being fake to real. But maybe it's too real. And what does that mean? Because he tends to have a more global job, and she's very local at her florist and in her community. So I really liked the themes of, like, finding oneself and pushing against the expectations that your community can have around you. I liked their chemistry for the most part. It just wasn't quite the romance I wanted when I picked it up. Because, like I said, I really wanted, like, a friends to lovers sort of thing because of the next book we're going to talk about, which like I like Practice Makes Perfect maybe a smidge more. I'm not sure. It depends on the day. But Lovelight Farms really did the friends to lovers thing that I wanted, even though the main character of this story infuriates me to no end. This is only a one-side POV, and it's like, if you can't handle a main character who is like delulu about like someone having feelings for them, who is always like, there's no way they could possibly like, then step away, because she is so delulu in many ways. Like, she doesn't talk to business partners about the business decisions she's making. Like, she's just, like, a little too naive for me in many ways in the decisions she makes. But the fake dating friends to lovers trope in here around the holiday times was very cozy and very fun for me. So, like, if I could ignore how idiotic she was, I was having a great time. Like, it is one of those things where her best friend has loved her for years, but she is ignorant to it. And so now she needs to pretend to be dating him. And again, I cannot remember why, because this is just a romance. So it's a contrived scenario of why we have to. And he jumps at the chance. And everyone in the town also knows that he loves her. So like everyone just assumes this is real, but her. So you can already probably see that third act breakup situation, but I really loved their chemistry. And yeah, I really enjoyed this friends to lovers situation, and I want more like it, but with like a better main character. So if you have any recs for that, please. Next up, let's talk about Happy Place. This is my only Emily Henry. I have not read a lot of Emily Henry. I own another one because my friend just keeps finding them at library sales and giving them to me. So Happy Place is the one where they all go to a lake house and everyone thinks her and her, did they ever get married? Husband, fiance, very long-term person, are together, but they have broken up and they have to pretend to be together. So it's like sort of fake dating, but more second chance romance. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I think it's because like Emily Henry definitely like is a romance contemporary author that also works in like the Hallmark movie space. In terms of like a lot of this is the plot of the people and this relationship and this friend group. But I actually liked that part. I just wasn't in the mood for that type of story. So yeah, and I think also the fact that this had flashbacks. So this had flashbacks to who they were and how they fell in love, and then we're in the present day. And I think in general, I don't like second chance romance with flashbacks that much. And I feel like it's always used that way because they're like, well, it's a second chance romance. You have to see the first chance. It's like, no, I don't want to because that makes me sad, personally. Like, I want to be told that they used to date. I can fill in the blanks. And now I want to actually see their second chance. So I think the flashbacks, like, added a lot of bloat to me. If we had stayed all in the present day and even kept all the plot parts that aren't romance-based, I think I would have loved this a lot more. Next up, speaking of a second chance romance, we've got 7 Days in June. This is heavy. This is a romance, but this is heavy. So, like, a lot of the things I've been talking about so far are pretty light. Like, they might have some themes that hit a little close to home for you, depending on who you are, but, like, 7 Days in June, it deals with, like, recovery from addiction, like, really low levels of income and poverty and things like that. And it's a second chance romance, so we have the flashback and we have the present day. Now, in this case, like, I think it worked because of the heaviness. Because I really did need to see what was this week in their life that truly changed the trajectory of who they were. Because these are two authors that can't stop writing about each other and have been estranged for years and then suddenly meet. And now they are, like, it's 10 to 20 years after, I think. They are very different people at very different points in their life, but they still have this chemistry. And because I think the flashbacks serve not only to show how they connected, but show what stage of life they were in and the things that they just had to overcome in life, I think it worked a little bit better for me. That said, it was a lot. It was absolutely a lot. It was emotionally pretty draining at times. Like, it is a romance, so it comes with the happily ever after, or the happily for now. But it was a journey to get through. My next one is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Jimenez. Oh, I really enjoyed this. This is messy, though. Capital M, mess. Okay? Like, and main character lost the love of their life like 3 or 5 years ago and is deciding to put themselves back out on the market for, like, just casual physical intimacy. Ends up meeting a guy. They end, and she ends up with his friend, but they're still keeping it slow and casual, goes on a vacation with this friend, and instantly falls in love with this guy's father. It's messy. It's super messy. I loved it. I think I really enjoy how Jimenez writes. A lot of these books, I couldn't tell you. I mean, 7 Days in June also had, like, a nice writing style, but most of them are pretty serviceable, straightforward prose that make it easy for you to, like, flip the pages. Jimenez still has their voice. They write a lot of general fiction. They write sometimes some fantasy, like they're known for Pet, Freshwater, things like that. And in this one, the quality of that prose, the lushness of it, how it flows is still here while hitting contemporary romance beats. The contrived nature of how you get from A to B, how characters interact. And it's really emotional too. I found the emotional exploring how these two characters both have instant chemistry, but then also have emotional chemistry on top of the physical chemistry, I thought was really well done, especially for how quickly you need to get buy-in to this situation. I also like vacation stories, so I really like that the majority of this takes place truly separate from the world in this kind of, like, nebulous space, because it's like that's where moments like these can happen, you know, those, I don't know, like I remember my summer flings and things like that in those moments, or like in the musical Into the Woods, they're always talking about moments like when you are removed from the world and isolated into like a vacation type space, anything can happen. So I really like the setting for this as well. So yeah, I highly recommend this if you can handle the mess. I think it's done with actually a lot of care. There is a bit of age gapness. Also, I think of all of these so far, this is the most strongly queer one. Like, yes, both characters like represent as man and woman, so it can seem heteronormative, but they're actually both very bisexual and queer individuals. And so I really liked that as well in terms of just like change of pace. The next one is one that's super slow burn. I think all of these, maybe not 7 Days in June, because I can't remember it that much, and maybe not Happy Place that much, but the rest of these have had like some slightly steamy scenes. Like, they're not closed door. I don't think they're super erotic, but they're not closed door. The Wall of Winnipeg and Me is the most slow burn, and I don't remember the sex scene. I know there is one at the very end, and it's not very good for me, but I love everything else about it so much. Okay. The Wall of Winnipeg and Me is a marriage of convenience story. She used to work for, I forget the position. Like, the guy's from Canada. It's not a hockey book. It's a football book. He has the same position as Myles Garrett on the Browns, but I'm forgetting what the position's called in football. But he's a defensive player, and he's very large, square man, according to the book. And he takes her for granted. She's like his assistant. Very Tony Stark and Potts sort of dynamic, and she decides she doesn't need to work for him anymore just because like she can financially do what she wants other ways. They don't have like a huge moment of falling out, but she decides like to quit, and he doesn't believe her, and he does kind of disrespect her at the end and goes back to do her art and live in her apartment, and then all he wants is for her to work for him again. Like, that's all he wants. And so he begs her to do that, and then along the way, because he's a Canadian citizen, he wants American citizenship, and she accidentally says, well, why don't you just marry someone? And then he's like, yes, you. And that's where the marriage of convenience comes in, and it makes sense, like, why she would say yes. And then I really like this story because it's basically from passively not caring about each other to friends to lovers, and I really enjoyed that trajectory. The little moments they share with each other, how they lean on each other. The main character herself is like focusing on other things in her life. Like, he is not the center of her universe. He is a means to an end, and I really like that we don't lose sight of that. So I found it really cozy. I really did, and so I really enjoyed this. So if you don't want something super spicy and you really want like the relationship development to be like the focal point, you might like this. A lot of my friends found it way too slow paced though, so it might not be for you. So those were all of my contemporary romances that aren't my big two. My favorite is Abby Jimenez, but I've read the least from her, so we're going to talk about her next. But she's my favorite, okay? I've read 4, I've loved 3, liked the other. The one I liked is Say You'll Remember Me. It's a long distance relationship. I find that very sad. The first part where like they meet, amazing. But it's a long distance relationship because of work and family pressures. And I knew it would be okay, but it was just so sad getting to where they would be okay. So that's why it really wasn't for me. It also is going to deal with issues of Alzheimer's in a family member and having to care for them. So be aware of that. Then we have the Part of Your World series, okay? And I don't actually know which one my favorite is in the Part of Your World series. It's either Just for the Summer or Yours Truly. I love them both. Part of Your World is good, and the reason I got into Abby Jimenez, so I am grateful for it, but it's not my favorite in the trilogy by a long shot. Part of Your World is about this woman who just meets this guy and they have instant like physical chemistry, but he's in a small town like 40 minutes to an hour from where she lives. She is from a rich family, works as a doctor, just got over her ex, who is like, I don't remember if he's a surgeon or not. He is a jerk, for sure. And she feels embarrassed that she like really likes this younger guy who's just like a carpenter in this small town. But they keep being drawn to each other. So Part of Your World, 2 worlds collide. And what I really like actually about a lot of Abby Jimenez books is communication is typically not the problem. People are always talking about things and being straightforward, if they aren't communicating with someone, it might be themselves, if that makes sense. But like with other people, people aren't like trying to pull one over on each other or things like that. Yours truly has a lot of good anxiety representation. It has a fake dating. It's not explicitly stated which neurodivergencies are on page, but the main male love interest definitely has a neurodivergence of some sort. And I really like yours truly because it kind of has these letters back and forth and it's fake dating and it's really sweet. I really like that one. And then just for the summer, we have these two people who, like, whenever people date them, they find the love of their life next. So they're like, let's date each other, and then we'll find each other. And, like, this person, she's a traveling nurse. So she only chooses to stay, is it Wisconsin? I think it's Wisconsin, for, like, a summer. And then she's going to leave. But, like, of course, they catch feelings, like, really quick and things like that. But she has huge abandonment issues. And I do recommend reading the books in order. Like, it's like any romance series. You can read them in isolation. But there are really funny reveals in Just for the Summer that land slightly differently if you've read the first two books first. Which, it's not a big deal if you don't. It just was icing on the cake. Like, when you're already loving something and then you get served that little bit of fan service, it was fantastic. And then we've got all of the Allie Hazelwood, who is not my favorite, but she's prolific and she works. Like, when I need, like, 24 hours of escape and she's released a new book, it's been great. I'm not going to talk about her paranormal romance because I'm keeping this contemporary romance. The most recent thing I read were the Jimenez novellas. They're fine. Like, she has a whole bunch, and actually I'm going to talk about all of them because when she first started writing, she was only really writing one thing. She was writing it well, but she was really only writing one thing, and that was broody miscommunication boy, very tall, very large, and small little girl. Maybe there's fake dating, maybe there's something else in it, and they have some animosity towards each other. It's like pseudo enemies to lovers. She did variations on that theme a lot. Jimenez novellas, all three of them are variations on that scene with the miscommunication, and what I mean by that is, like, the female character doesn't think that the male character likes them, but they do. But they think that they don't. It's not as bad as Lovelight Farms, but it's definitely there. So that's in Jimenez novellas, which also has flashbacks. Like, it kind of starts in the present, then flashes back, and all of the novellas do that. And they're interconnected a little bit. It was like a little fun palate cleanser when I read it over the holidays. Life Hypothesis was her breakout. And yeah, so this is like the fake dating that makes no sense. It truly feels paced more like a fan fiction, and it is, like, cribbed from that, where, like, the plot really doesn't make sense, and that's okay. Even the world building, though, and, like, what I mean by world building is, like, a lot of times you, like, suspend disbelief for a lot of the situations that happen in a contemporary romance, and I recognize that I am more in line with academic spaces, but truly I need everyone to know that you can afford a banana on a grad student stipend. Like, I need everyone to know that. Like, Olive was having a time. So Love Hypothesis, truly there's not much there other than she doesn't think he likes her, but then they have to fake date because she, like, randomly kisses him in a hallway at the start of the book. It's, like, really wild. Like, Love Hypothesis was super fun. I couldn't put it down, but it is the weakest, I think, especially now that she's written more. Love on the Brain is, I think, a better version of Love Hypothesis, especially because it kind of has the almost you got mail sort of thing where, like, she's been messaging this person on Twitter and she doesn't connect the dots that it's the same person she has issues with in her work life. Another issue I have with the Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain is that there is, like, a bad guy. Like, there is, like, a miscommunication with, like, an actual person in real life. So there's, like, an actual, like, plot bad guy, and I think that stresses me out a little bit. Love Theoretically of this era was my favorite. So of this type of book that she does, Love Theoretically is my favorite. It has an adjunct professor, and I really do think she understood the adjunct professor thing really well. There is, like, a PI bad guy, but it kind of works. It makes a little bit more sense to me. And I really enjoyed how the focus on this book is we have a character who's always giving too much and doesn't want to be a burden. So this is the first time where I felt like the main female character had, like, traits. Okay, wasn't like a stand-in for the reader to insert themselves. And I liked that the male love interest, he was really working to make sure she was always communicating and, like, actually saying what she wanted and not just being a pushover all the time. And I really liked their dynamic. And yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. And I can't remember how this, I think her side gig was being like dates for people. I can't remember why. Like, it's because she doesn't get paid a lot. And she was supposed to be in a job interview for a faculty position, and he was kind of on the panel, and she's like convinced that he's the reason she didn't get it, and it's like a whole thing. This book emotionally hit me personally so hard because of where I was in life when I read this, like between jobs, trying to find my job, etc. At 1 a.m, that I did start to look up, can I afford a therapist? So it worked for me. And then we got like these next two are like her more erotic adjacent stories. Like, I'm not going to say they're like directly erotica, but like they are about a lot of kink adjacent things. And so we have Deep End and Not in Love. And I actually really love both of these because they are more than just their sex scenes, but I also just enjoy the sex scenes. Like, I do. So Deep End, though, sports romance, okay? And it's Olympics time right now, so like I get nostalgic for it. We have two swimmers. One's a diver, one's a swimmer. They go to college. They're actually pretty grounded individuals. I feel like you do have to be more mature to be an Olympic athlete, and like it comes across on the page to me. And the ex-girlfriend of one of the main male love interest was like, hey, you two are probably into the same stuff. You guys should just hook up with each other. And then they do kind of see that because they do just happen to overlap a lot with what they like in the bedroom. And it was really interesting watching that communication game unfurl, and like also how that bled into like the sports problems we were having, because our main character is currently going to therapy. She is having a mental block when it comes to diving. And yeah, I really enjoyed that one. I think it was a really good blend of like the spicy scene payoff and the emotional development. Maybe the strongest I've read from Ali Hazelwood in both regards. I also really like Not in Love. Not in Love is definitely like per capita the most sex scenes I think you're going to find in an Ali Hazelwood book. These people meet for a one-night stand hookup. The main character is very reserved. She does not let anyone in. She has very strict rules, but these two people have insane chemistry and don't actually get to hook up the first night because of family issues on her end. He ends up being a part of a takeover for her workplace, so then they keep having to intersect, and then they're finally like, we have to get it out of our system. Does it get it out of our system? No. Do they start catching feelings? Well, the male guy, he's been catching feelings all along. But again, she has issues. She is not going to let him in right away. And so it's dual POV. I think this is the only dual POV Ali Hazelwood. And I really liked it. I really liked seeing both sides of it. I really liked the emphasis on communication and being honest and working through things. This did have kind of sort of a bad guy thing that's like really obvious as you're reading it and you're like, oh, this main character is trusting the wrong people. But it wasn't as bad as I feel early entries in her bibliography. And then her most recent one is Problematic Summer Romance, which I found was fun because, again, it's a vacation romance. It's at a wedding venue in, was it Italy or Greece? Very Mamma Mia, and my wedding was a destination wedding, so I get nostalgic about those things. And like I said, I feel like there's a magic to a vacation situation in general, which can help with suspension of disbelief for these sort of things. It is age gap. It doesn't feel egregious to me. I think it's more of an issue because someone was using it as a crutch in the story. Like, the guy is like, we cannot be together because of the age gap, to a point where it's like, it's exhausting and almost like, I mean, I felt for the main character. Like, she was very annoyed by it, and I agreed with why she was annoyed by it. It does have flashbacks, so it almost feels like it's using the second chance romance framework, even though there is no, like, second chance. But it does actually really show how their friendship formed. So I liked it in that regard, because then in present day, they've had a falling out of their friendship because it almost became something more. This is not going to be a very spicy one. So if you wanted one that's not as spicy, that is more focused on relationship development, I think you should give this one a go. I think it's actually really fun. And so, yeah, those are the contemporary romances that I've read and the things that I liked and didn't like. And if you think, based off my thoughts on any of these books, you have recommendations for me, feel free to leave them down below. Especially Friends to Lovers. I really like that one. And I don't think it's as popular, right, as like Adversities or Enemies to Lovers, but like, I would like it. Even if it's like the Wall of Winnipeg and me where we take a detour, you know, and we have to become friends first and then lovers, I'll take that. But the best friends to lovers trope, I want more of that. I really do. And if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, leave me a heart of your favorite color because Valentine's Day. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.